to Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that my guests and I are excited that you're joining us this week. So here's the deal. The word change in the show, title, right? Changing the Sales Game, the word change, I know throws us into a little bit of a tizzy sometimes, but here's the deal. If we're not constantly upping and changing our sales game, we're losing. So in the show notes, I have a gift for you. It's my communication style assessment. At the end of the day, everything we do really boils down to having really honed in, dialed in communication skills because we're dealing with other humans. At least I deal with other humans. I don't happen to deal with aliens in my world. But in the show notes will be my communication style assessment. You'll get 2 reports. One, just your natural communication superpowers, how your message naturally lands for you. Flip side, your lowest score, that to me is the more important report. When we're communicating or speaking with people who think and communicate 180 degrees different than us, how is your message landing there? Very important for you to dial into that and understand so that you can navigate, pivot, and modify your style. Again, link is in the show notes, my gift to you. And I hope it helps you navigate whatever change you're seeking in your sales game. Now, for my guests and I chose a cool quote to set the stage for our conversation. And the quote is by Shiv Singh. And she says, "The purpose of business is to create customers who create customers." So when I search for the perfect quote, right, for each show, I often reflect on my own sales career, my business, and I love it when a quote just hits home because I have proven that the idea behind the quote works. So today this quote landed for me because I have lived off of referrals and generated so much passive income by making myself top of mind through the years due to referrals from existing clients or people who have gotten to know me within my network, et cetera, right? That know, like, trust factor is always at work. The key to developing a stream of referrals, you really do have to first prove yourself, build that know, like, trust factor, and the rest, it's almost like magic. So who is my amazing guest today? His name is Chris Jennings. Chris won the Vistage Lifetime Achievement Award and is an award-winning speaker and best-selling author of 2 books, Conversations Made Easy and The Client Retention Matrix. He is personal, energetic, engaged, and rooting for you to succeed. Chris runs a team of coaches who help individuals and organizations improve their sales performance through a mix of coaching, training, consulting, and sometimes serving even as a fractional VP of sales or chief revenue officer. So Chris, thank you for joining me on the show, and I'm excited for our conversation.
Thanks, Connie. Me as well. Looking forward to it. Appreciate your intro, and I like the quote you picked out too. Customers who will find customers for you. Everybody needs to have that in mind. That's a great quote to repeat probably every day to yourself.
Exactly. It's funny, Chris, you have a sales process too. Mine 7-step process. My last one, obviously the last step is follow-up, but I call it CPR. And those of you that are listening, I'm doing the paddles, right? Trying to keep people alive. But my CPR is consistent, persistent, respectful follow-up. And when we do that with that consistency, that deliberation, all of a sudden we start getting passive income. People refer to us. We're generating leads all the time. Sure. Without any effort. And that's a beautiful thing because people, referrals, the chance of you making the sale is exponentially higher because you're already known and trusted because of the referral. But yeah. So anyway, that was my rant on the quote.
Amen to that. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. How do you think a leader gets started if they just took over their team? Because you know what happens, right? You're good at sales. They make you a sales leader. How do we get started to become good leaders now?
Yeah, I mean, I actually always caution people before they get into sales leadership roles. Is that their best use? Is that their best? Is that the best spot for them on the team? Because you're a great salesperson, does that make you a great sales leader? Not necessarily, right? Usually, great salespeople are interested in achieving their personal goals themselves. Great sales leaders are more interested in their team achieving their goals. Right. So that's usually where I start to just make sure you're getting into the right role in the first place. But if you're taking over a team, just like ourselves on an assignment, I was like kind of step back. We usually do a discovery process and identify what is it what are those top five activities that you need to be engaged in? What are the things that should be occupying your team's, the majority of your team's time, right? Should it be webinars? Should it be on the phone? Should it be asking for referrals? Should it be going to trade shows? Like there's always an activity process that you could put together. So first things first, I'd kind of reassess on what is the best set of activities for that team. And then I would go to work installing a sales process, right? And building a sales playbook. I always say every offense is going to run better if it's got a playbook. And if the sales team has a playbook that it runs off of, doesn't matter what the playbook is. It just as long as you got to have a playbook and you got to have a process that you work towards. And that way you got a framework and an outline of how to steer your conversations. I'm not a giant believer in scripts, frankly. I feel like that kind of takes out the authenticity
Agree.
of most conversations, but I do feel like you should have an outline. You should know where you are in your process. 7 steps, 11 steps, you pick the number, right? It's somewhere in that range. It's no less than 6 steps. It's not more than 11. And but have a process that you work towards. And so first is build out the activity. Second is develop sales process. And then third thing I would say for a sales leader is to have a development program that you build for your team. I don't care if you think your team is great, average, good, whatever you think they are. I know they could be better, right? Every one of us, doesn't matter how accomplished we are, we all can improve. We can all get better. And so you have to have a well-defined development process. And so if you do those three things, I feel like you're serving your role as a great sales leader. So,
Agree.
but
It's
that's a
interesting.
mouthful in and of itself, right?
Yeah, but it's got to start somewhere. And I think the
Yeah.
more tangible we can make something, right? Because people don't change because I don't even know what the next step is, right? That's where we're coming from. So as soon as someone can be very deliberate and say, this is step one, this is step two, this is step three, whether there's a better process out there, you have to start somewhere. So if what you just said resonates for people listening, go for it, double down and start with that. The other thing I wanted to comment on with the steps, salespeople, good salespeople or strong salespeople, they're dialed into what activities they need to do every day to make that extra dollar. But when we're coaching someone now, right, I'm asking you to put your hands around Jello, so to speak, because you have to get into the other person's head. Where is their skill level? What are their natural ingredients, right? Or their secret sauce? And then how do we leverage that? So I like the idea of the personal development plan. And the last thing I wanted to say is I see too many times sales leaders say to me when they're coaching, well, they're high performers. I just tell them, great job, keep doing what you're doing. And my response is, shame on you. They deserve a personal development plan, right? Because don't tell me they're the perfect human. How can they serve you, the organization, or their client better, or themselves even better? High performers need to be coached as well and have development plans.
100% agree with that. Yeah. There was a guy named Graham that I coached a long time ago. And I remember Graham was a good performer when he came into our program. And he I worked with him for about a year or two, and then he went from about 1 million a year to two. Then I think he hit about 2.5.
Nice.
And then his boss decided to change his comp plan because Graham started to make more money than he was. And so Graham's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And he left the company, went somewhere else, and they really worked hard at the other place at developing him. That I spoke to Graham a few years after the fact, and Graham said he was at 12 years or $12 million a year of revenue, same industry, but he unfortunately had lost his two biggest customers recently that were accounted for about $3 million a year worth of business, but he had already replaced them, and he thought he would do about 14 to 15 million the following year.
Nice.
So, but Graham was open to coaching the whole way through. And I've seen that so many times in a territory. You could have people where the quote is $1 million to $2 million, but you have people doing 10, 12, 15, $18 million. And so if you get somebody who's doing 3 million and a $2 million quota, you could think they're great, but it could be 12 million. in that same territory, that same industry. So there's really no limit, which is one of the cool things about working working with sales teams. There's really no limit to how efficient and how good you can get. And so, continuing to work with each other to make ourselves better is a great thing.
Yeah, it's impossible until you do it, and then it's possible, right? Those break
Yeah.
points are they're nothing more than an illusion, right? It's
Yeah.
funny as you were saying that. I remember years ago as a financial advisor, and they put an operational person in charge of the sales team, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
My goal was always to make my annual goal by the 6 month mark, because then you
Mhm.
make bank after that, right? You're in the highest tier, and you just every
Sure.
dollar you bring in. Plus, I did good for my customers, right? I did a good job. As soon as I hit my break point at the 6 month mark, they changed the compensation because they said that
Yeah.
me and one other person were going to make too much money. And I'll tell you, shortly after that, Chris, is when I opened my own business. And I thought, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I work hard and I work hard for my clients. You got to compensate me. You can't take from me because I'm producing too much. What is
Yeah.
wrong with that
I know.
logic, right?
Yeah, well, and I get it. People get envious of others, and there's, some people we were talking. I was in Chicago all week speaking at some conferences, and we got on the topic of scarcity mindset versus
Oh,
abundance. And unfortunately, a lot of the world comes from a place of scarcity. I'm going to submit to you that about half of the world likes to play the victim and
yeah.
blame the company and blame their boss and blame the industry and blame the marketplace and blame the politics or whatever. And and the way I like to look at the world and the way I believe the world is there's an abundance of opportunity for everybody that decides that they want to go pursue it. And
Yeah.
it is completely within your control to go make as much money as you want to. Whether and kudos to you, Connie, whether you do that at that organization or you go, hey, I'm going solo, right? Nobody's putting shackles on me. Either way, it's all out there, right? And you gotta stop playing the victim for those victims out there. Probably you don't have very many victims listening to your show. If you are playing the victim, you gotta become your own rescuer. And if you're a rescuer, you gotta teach those victims how to rescue themselves.
Yeah.
And there are no villains; there are only teachers.
That's right.
And
I love that. Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
that's the way the world should be. But so much of this is a matter of perspective. And I hope your listeners are taking some of this in, and I'm glad that your listeners are even participating in a community. We've always run a group coaching session every week because it's a community of a community of people who understand what it's like to knock on doors
Yeah.
physically or
Yeah.
virtually or however we do it, and look for opportunities and try to create deals and understand the nuances of all the myriad of things that go wrong along the way and try to keep yourself psychologically glued together and keep getting out there and suit up and show up every day. And I think it helps to have community, helps to have a coach, helps to have somebody to confide in, helps to have a mentor that inspires you to do more than you could. And, it's
Yeah.
all out there for you.
It's funny because I tell, I mostly deal with banks and credit unions across the country, but corporate clients, the
Yeah,
business owner, I help business owners just because of course I do. I'm a business owner, right? I get it.
sure.
I get the trials and tribulations of the daily grind.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny because I tell coaches, you want people to hire you, but you won't pay for a coach. That's a problem because
Yeah.
you think you know it all. You don't know it all. You can't know it all. So all of us should be coached by coaches, right? In whatever the expertise is. After COVID, Chris, it was interesting. I did everything live, and now all of a sudden the world stopped. I
Yeah.
had to shift
Me
and
too.
pivot. Yeah, and I'm older, right? So
Mhm.
I was like,
Me too.
whoa, yeah, yeah. I think you're a little younger, but we're peers, right? We've been doing this for decades. Anyway, I said to my husband, I don't know what to do. And I said, I know what to do. I said, I'm going to start joining networking groups. I'm going to take online classes where they're teaching different digital things that I know I can use in my business, getting better at video, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
I started, I hired 3 coaches. We had no income coming in because his company closed. We had 2 kids in college, no income. Thank God we had some money saved. But I hired 3 coaches for 3 different deficits I had.
Yeah.
And I worked for them for about a year, one of them for 2 years. You can't do it alone because you don't know what you don't know. That's why we call them blind spots. So we
Yeah.
need a team of people really to help us grow and see us where we are and where where they see our capability going. But we
Mhm.
need sometimes for people to see the destination because sometimes we can't, right? We're in the weeds.
Yeah.
I have a question. How well, first question, how do you build confidence in yourself and your team as a leader? And then I want to talk about the phone, but that one, since we're kind of in that realm, how do we build
Yeah.
that confidence?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take responsibility for your own mental conditioning. I think you have to put the time into, writing out your affirmations. I do think even just, coming back to my earlier comment around knowing your top 5 activities, and I
Yeah,
always feel like there's your top 5 business activities and then professional activities, and then there's your top 5 personal activities. And if you
agree.
spend the majority of your life in in the top 5 business activities and your top 5 personal activities, you're probably gonna have a good life. If
Yeah,
you're getting distracted by the myriad of other things, like so much stuff, like you said, the cell phones and all the electronic communication, like human beings were just not meant to process that much information all at once. And if you're getting overly distracted by all those outside influences, it's probably taking your focus out of those. So, and I do feel like if you commit to a certain activity level and you follow through on that activity level, you feel really good about yourself because you did what you said you would do.
that's
And
right.
one of the ways that you build confidence in yourself is you consistently honor your word. You consistently follow through and you do what you say you're going to do. So having clarity on that, I think number one. Second, taking care of your mental conditioning, writing out your affirmations, helping yourself kind of grow into that person you want to be, giving yourself a better story. If you listen to the stories that go on in the news or whatever the headlines are, and the fear about tariffs or whatever it is, right? You're going to get yourself spun up. And my mom, she was freaking out. Every time my mom gets upset, I'm like, Mom, you've been watching the news. Stop watching the news, right? And because the news sells fear. That's all it does. Is the
That's right.
news sells fear. That's how they get you to tune in. And your phone is selling fear, right? Your phone is selling a different life. They're trying to get you out of whatever your reality is. And I always say, like, just take control of your own story. So write out your affirmations, right? If you want to see yourself leading a team of 10 people that are all, 20% above quota year over year, that are all coming back to you, referring you other people to come to work for you, that sounds like a great mantra. That sounds like a great story. That's the messaging you should be giving yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take responsibility for your mental conditioning. And I do think, and I'll say the last thing on building confidence is making sure that you're not twisting yourself into a pretzel, and foregoing all the things that make you the person that you are. You mentioned you were going to your Pilates class the other day. I said I was at the gym this morning. I got my 3,000 meters in the pool. I got a quick weight workout in the gym, and I'm back here for the podcast. And it's very important, I think, that we all do the things that keep us physically, mentally, spiritually glued together so
Yeah.
that we have a strong personal foundation when the world is, rattling our cage.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting. They just, my husband and he was sharing last night that, Facebook, I'm rarely on Facebook. Most of my people are on LinkedIn. There's less drama, right? More
yeah,
professional, but
yeah,
not that nothing wrong with Facebook. But anyway, this local person, created a Facebook group locally, right literally in our backyard, right? In Monmouth
yeah,
County. And they listed all of the businesses that voted conservatively. Now, how they knew that, I don't know, and in a spreadsheet, and they said, do not buy from these people with the holiday season approaching. And then they had a spreadsheet with all of the people who were more liberal
oh,
in their
wow.
voting. And they said, these are the people you should patronize. Well, sure enough, within a few days, that was taken down. And I said to my husband, as a small business owner, How
Yeah.
do you, if you love the product and who cares
Yeah.
what their political view is? Like, what,
Yeah.
this is the craziness that we're facing. Like you said to your mom, were you watching the news? Turn it off, because
Yeah.
this is the kind of craziness that we start to foster. And then we all get distracted. And then you forget your spiritual game, forget your
Yeah.
habits, because you're in this woe's me, that scarcity
Yeah.
mentality of, this is not going to be good. This is craziness. It's craziness.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I expect the world to be crazy. I expect people to do stupid things. Nothing surprises me. Yeah. But I'm not worried about what's going on around me.
Yeah.
Because I'm really grounded and centered in the clarity of purpose and focus that I have.
Yes.
And for all your listeners, it doesn't matter what those outside influences are. It doesn't matter what's happening in your market. It doesn't matter what your company did on maybe, a late delivery or something like that. What matters is you've got clarity and focus on what you're supposed to do, and you stick to your process. Like I always say, you find a process, you stick to your process, fall in love with your process, and your process will love you back.
Absolutely. And you get really good and efficient at
Yeah.
it. It becomes a rinse and repeat. We save so much time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing when we dial in how much
Oh,
time
I
we could
know.
save and duplicate the good behaviors. But you have to take the time to dial in to what are those good
Yeah.
habits.
And,
Yeah.
and how little energy it takes out of you once
Yeah.
that process that you've engaged in it. The
Agree.
first time somebody goes to a networking meeting, I get that they're nervous. I get that it's, kind of like going to a seventh grade dance and wondering if so and so is going to ask me to dance. I understand all of that. But the 10th time and the 100th time, once you've done it enough, yeah, no negative energy. In fact, it starts to feed you positive energy.
Yeah.
And most people don't stick with those activities long enough, that the energy drain eventually minimizes. In fact, it becomes an energy feed. We're going to tell you, said you want to talk about the phone. Picking up the phone for some people like drains them of so much energy initially, but after a period of time, once you get good at talking to people, it feeds you energy. So you have to get through that hurdle where it becomes an energy positive, not an energy negative. So
Well, growth happens when you're uncomfortable, right? That's what
yeah,
you just described. Where we're
sure.
uncomfortable, you're growing. That's a really good place to be, right? Uncomfortable is good. So, is the phone dead? Go back to the phone now. Do you think the phone is dead and we should just double down on the whole email thing or LinkedIn or whatever?
So no, I don't think the phone is dead.
What do you
I
think?
continue to encourage people to have live conversations. So we one of our core concepts is something that we call go live. I want you to go live on a phone call, on a Zoom meeting, at somebody's office, out for lunch, in a networking environment, on a job walk, whatever. As long as there's live dialogue, you're going to get better connection. I'll share a personal story. Our goddaughter was supposed to come down for a visit this weekend and see a local college, but we have a lot of like young grandkids that are going to be around, babies, and she said she was sick. I'm like, my daughters aren't going to want our goddaughter around if she's sick. And so my wife and I were talking about who was going to call my goddaughter Carolina, and I said I'll call her. My wife could. I didn't really want to call her, but I said you could call her. My wife said she'll call her, and I said no, I'll do it. And then all of a sudden, my wife sends her a text, and I'm like, oh no, you texted her. Like the odds of her receiving the message the way that we meant it in a
Uh,
text or an email, it's just not the same. Because I
yeah.
could have, when you talk to somebody, and one of my favorite things to say with clients, and I know you're going to get a lot of clients that are like, I don't call me, just email me. But those clients are afraid of talking to people too, and they will talk to you if it's important. You could say, "Hey," you could call them up and say, "Hey, I was about to send you a very long email, but I didn't think I could fit it all in. I felt like I could probably communicate this better and quicker in a short call. So I wanted to
Absolutely.
at least reach out to you and just kind of update you on a couple things that are going on." And I I still love the phone. In fact, to me, I think the phone has actually become sort of that unique special touch right? Years ago, a lot of people would FedEx a package to a customer to like have it be special, right? All kinds of things that they would FedEx customers. But
Yeah,
to me, the phone call has that sort of special feel to it now. So,
yeah,
use the phone, go on, get on Zoom, go
yeah,
see people,
yeah.
go live.
Can I tell you, COVID was bad. Listen, let's call
Yeah.
a spade a spade. I mean, people did die, but my education since COVID, and I
Yeah.
love Zoom. So people say, "Oh, do you want to have a phone call?" And I go, "Can we 15 minutes on Zoom? I promise. I like to see body language. I like you to
Mhm.
see my body
Yeah,
language. I feel like we connect deeper, faster,
sure.
but being very authentic,
Yeah.
So yeah. So and the other, I just share a really funny story. So I taught a class, a company up in New Hampshire, and the woman, the manager of this particular business client came in, great success story after all the things we were teaching. We're only about halfway through the process, Chris. She sends me this lengthy email about he's very formal, he's a little unapproachable and blah blah blah. But she goes, but you were on my shoulder, whispering in my ear, saying, slow down. Ask him another question. Be curious and all the words, right? So
Yeah.
she sends me this lovely email about the success and all this. She ended up selling several things, got a referral from it and he
Great.
said, I'm only going to bank with you because you took the time with me.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward, she sends me this email and I think, well, I can't respond to the email. I call her. And so she picks up the phone. I go, it's me. I just read your email. Oh my God. She goes, you're calling me? I go, well, I want to scream and yell and with joy with you. Of course I'm calling you. I couldn't put that enthusiasm in an email. She's like, you're the best. She's like, I can't believe you took time out of your day. I go, this is more fun and faster than me writing a
Yeah.
stupid email, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
we forget the connectivity of our energy right behind our words and then the enthusiasm. It's never
Yeah.
going to come through the same in a
Yeah.
text or email.
Well,
You're
the
100% right.
yeah, the authenticity, the true meaning of what we're trying to communicate is virtually impossible
Yeah.
to communicate in writing, and that's the same level that you want to. Like even when I was writing my books, I initially was going to hire a professional narrator because I speak a lot, and I thought I just would wear out my voice doing the
Audio.
Audible version
Yeah.
and doing the audio myself. So I think I was going to hire a professional narrator. And then in the middle of it, the publisher basically went bankrupt because the CEO had embezzled a bunch of money from the company.
Oh,
And so the narrator that we had, like the whole project blew up. I took it as a sign from God that I was supposed to narrate the books myself, right?
exactly.
And at the end of the book, which is what I did for both books, is at the end, as it really, I was probably only a couple chapters into the first book, and I thought, there's no way anybody could have given this the exact tonality with the
Right.
exact inflection that the way that I'm
Right.
doing it, and it would have gone fell flat.
Yes.
And so, there's just example after example of the importance of communicating in live fashion. And unfortunately, Connie, though, like the reality is the entire world is doing everything in its power to never have a conversation with another living human being again.
I know.
And it's like some of those scary movies that you see, like there's one out now on the airplanes I saw, Breathe, I think it is, with Jennifer Hudson, and it's one of these post-apocalyptic, we tortured the planet and now they live alone. And, we forget what a gift we have to have people around and communities of,
Yes.
and I'm big on building communities of peers. Like I love talking to you because, you and I are like cut from the same piece of cloth, I can tell. And,
Yeah.
and we both are, interested in a lot of the same things. So community of
Yeah.
peers, community businesses, community of neighbors, a community of friends, in your church or whatever, your temple, whatever it is. There's so like that is a gift, community, and being able to commune and talk to and communicate with another human being is a real gift. And I
Yeah.
think when you call somebody, you're giving them a gift. And I
Yeah.
think you should think about it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember years ago when that, and I don't remember the name. So maybe it was social media. It was the Facebook story of how he started when he was in college at Harvard or wherever he went, Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, I looked at my husband and I said, "We're in trouble." He said, "Why?" And I said, "We have a severe introvert who couldn't keep a friend, could not create community, was not a nice friend at all, right? He was going through whatever he was going through, no judgment on the person." And I said, "That's who's teaching us how to be social."
I know.
I don't comprehend this. I said, "This is
I know.
I said, I'm telling you, we're in trouble." And now, how many years ago was that? And now you look, people do not know how to communicate. That's why we have so much, strife, fighting
Yeah.
verbally, emotionally,
Yeah.
divide of the country, all of these things.
Yeah.
We have to talk to people in a humane, respectful way.
Well, I mean, and a lot of that started because the things that people post online, they would never say to you in
Yeah.
person,
Well, yeah.
right? Like
Courage, right?
that person who posted whatever that thing was you told me about on
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
would never go into each one of those businesses and say, "Oh, I don't like the way you voted, so I'm going to tell all my friends to never come back." They would never do that in a million
Never.
years, but
Yeah.
they do it online. And
Yeah.
so you're right. So there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anxiousness. And I think, for unfortunately what's happening, I've talked about this a lot. I'm 3 full decades as a professional coach and speaker, and I would say over each decade, when I sit with a group, I feel like the average confidence level has dropped about 10 degrees per
I
decade,
would agree. Yeah.
right? And if the confidence level was in the
Ugh,
60s, 70s when 3 decades ago, then it was 50s and 60s. Now it's like below the midline,
yeah.
and
I
I
see
think
the same thing.
people are afraid of things they don't need to be afraid of. So, now come back again. Just get clarity on your top 5 activities.
Yeah. Agree. Last
Personal,
question.
professional, get them done.
Yeah. The last question. Why don't companies get more referrals? I teach how to get referrals, but
Yeah.
why aren't we generating those beautiful, easy, passive income? It makes life easy, and you're serving the people that you want to be serving. Like, it's just such a win-win-win-win-win. Why aren't we doing it more
Yeah.
and better?
So it's great to meet somebody else who's an authority on referrals because I've considered myself that, and I wrote a whole chapter. Chapter 6 of my second book, The Client Retention Matrix, is devoted to all about referrals, and I give a bunch of different ways to do it. And the I always come back to there's two main reasons why companies don't do it. Number one is fear. It feels a little awkward. They're not sure what to say. It seems a little too soon. I've noticed a lot of people don't like to ask for things for themselves.
Yeah,
And really I try to like change people's mindset on that. It's like, hey, you're not asking for yourself. If your client likes what you've done and you've helped your client fix a problem that they couldn't have fixed on their own, and there are other people that need your help, then you're doing that client a favor and those other people a favor by bringing up this subject. So you're
absolutely.
helping that person, you're helping potentially these other people. So you kind of get it right. Our whole conversation model that we built is around the concept of being useful. And so we
Yeah.
have a be useful acronym that we follow. And the so number one is like getting over the fear. And then number two, it's really not a play in the playbook. And so I talked earlier, if you're a sales leader, you have to create a playbook for your sales organization. And if it's not a play in the playbook, for every customer facing individual in your organization, your people are not going to do it. And because if it's not something you've rehearsed enough or you've done it enough times,
Yeah.
like,
Practice.
if you were in a new town and let's say you came out to visit me in California and you wanted to hang out here in Laguna Beach, it's a nice place, and there was a Pilates studio nearby, you could walk in and you could take a Pilates class because you take Pilates in New Jersey,
That's
right?
right.
But if you had never taken Pilates and I said, Connie, come with me to this Pilates class, you're like, I don't know, I'll just wait till you're home. I'll go for a walk. right? So if it's not something you're doing regularly, you build up more fear. So you got to make it a play in the playbook, and then you have to have a developmental process to take
Yeah.
your team through it enough to where, hey, it's something fun to do. It's an easy thing to do. It takes no more energy than me asking you what time it is.
It's so funny. So as you were saying that, my husband and I went to, this is years ago, and I'll really date myself. It was First Fidelity was merging with First Union. So, and it was not a good merger in the banking world back in the 90s. Anyway, we're at the food store online, and these two women were buying whatever their groceries. They were together, and they were commiserating and complaining about the merger and how horrible it is. And my husband looks at me, and I was a financial advisor. I was in the wealth area, so I didn't even work at the branches, right? But
Yeah.
he looks at me like, please don't. He knew he knew I was going to open my mouth, right? Because it's how I'm wired. And I said, excuse me. And I was very, very respectful. I said, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard, and I said, what you're going through to me is not okay. I'm in the banking world, right? I'm a financial advisor. I can't help you with this, but my friend Sharon, she's in the branch right here in this plaza. Here's my card. I put her name and number on the back. I said, just go in and say, Connie, told you to talk to her. Trust me, she will take such good care of you. But what you guys are talking about, this isn't okay in the banking world. You should not be going through this. 2 weeks go by, Chris. I get a call from Sharon. She goes, hey, thanks for the referral. My response, what referral? And she said, I don't know. She says the lady's name. I go, I don't know who that is. She came in with your card and she had your name and my name and phone number in the back. I go, oh, the ladies from Pathmark. It was the shopping thing. And she goes, what? And I go, long story. So when I went to the branch, I used that as a case study. I said, referrals are as easy as, look, and she got business. And Sharon said, oh, she's lovely. She's bringing friends over. It works, this whole referral thing. It's such a ripple effect. And that's a true story. My husband just shakes his head every time we're somewhere. He knows it's coming, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the way to go. And if anybody in a sales role needs motivation behind it, you got a choice. You can get over your discomfort of asking for referrals, or you can start calling strangers for a living. And if you want to spend your entire career calling strangers for a living, which we could help you do better, but no matter what, like you said, it's never going to be nearly as effective as getting a referral from a client who thinks you're great. They love you. They're going to refer you to somebody else that really needs your help. That's how all business really should get conducted.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun too, It was funny.
More fun, efficient.
Yeah,
it's just a great thing all the way around.
Yeah, the return on investment is like a no freaking brainer. It was funny. I went to a networking event again years ago, and my clients' employees were there, and they go, "Oh, are you speaking?" I said, "No." They go, "What are you doing here?" I go, "Networking." They go, "You network?" Of course I have to network. How do you think I find new business too? So I go, but you're right. I'm going to ask them if I could speak at the next event. And at the end of it, they come up to me. They go, you're really good at this. And I said, I'm good at it because I have fun. I love meeting people. I'm curious about I'm not looking for business per se. I'm looking to meet amazing people that maybe we can play and do some magic out in the world. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's just so funny. I think, Chris, it's the perspective am I going to come from fear and stick with my peeps and not branch out? Or am I going to be curious about, who else is here?
Yeah. There's, well, getting that's what we were talking about before, right? That right mental conditioning. And you certainly developed like a strong belief in that over time. And any of your listeners that don't feel that way, it's within your reach.
Yeah.
Right. And if you just take the action and get the coaching and mentorship that is going to guide you to where you want to go, it's all out there for you.
And it's easy and it's within reach. I like that. It is within reach.
It's within reach.
Yeah. We're out of time, but Chris, okay, everybody. So you need a little more Chris in your life. Here's an interesting thing. If you remember before, he talked about Chris mentioned scarcity and abundant mentality. We do very similar things. We both have published books with similar processes. It doesn't matter. I love him. I think he's amazing. So here's the deal. If Chris resonates more than me, hire him. It's all about the connection. It doesn't mean his process or my process is better. If you're loving on Chris, love on Chris. I love that you're loving on Chris. That makes me very happy that you're seeking the person who could take you to the next level. That's what it's all about. And that's an abundance mindset, right? Chris and I,
Yeah.
we're not afraid to get and talk about this, even though we do similar things, right?
Yeah.
It's about connecting and sharing and believing in what we're
Yeah.
doing. And it really is within grasp. I love that last sentence you said. So Chris,
Yeah.
thank you for being on. You're a joy.
It was
Here's the
my
deal.
pleasure.
You all need more Chris in your life. Hey, he's in my life. I got him, but you deserve him too. So go to his website, chrisjenningsgroup.com. I will put it in the show notes. And his email, if you have a very specific question about his books or whatever, email him, chris@chrisjenningsgroup.com. And his free gift, which I'm loving, Christmas is coming. This is again, Christmas 2024, if you're listening in the future, but good stocking stuffer. Share if they email you or they go to the website you have for them to buy the book.
If they go to the website, we've got free copies of the book for you. You got to cover the shipping, and the book is going to come to you. So,
Love it.
or you can go to Jeff Bezos and the friends at Amazon or Audible, and they'll charge you whatever they charge you.
Yes, I love it. Get it for free. Good stocking stuffer. So here's the deal, Chris. I end every show by saying we talked about a lot in this episode, right, Chris? So
Yes.
everybody listening, hopefully they took at least one thing where they think, oh, I kind of like that. I think I want to play with that, right? So that's the hope. At the end of the show, I always say, we shared a lot of information. Information's a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, it's information in your brain. As soon as you take that action step forward, whatever it is for the listeners, whatever we said that resonated with them, I promise that with that action has reactions and magic happens on the back end. It really is as simple as that. So again, take the advice from Chris, my stories, whatever I shared, but do something differently and really magic will happen for you. Chris, thank you again for being on. You're an amazing guest. I love meeting kindred spirits in sales. My favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah, it was a fun time, Connie. I had a blast. I really appreciate your energy and everything you're putting out into the universe. Keep it up. You're doing amazing. Hope all the listeners had a great time, as much fun as we did.
Yeah, just great job, Chris. Thank you so much. You're stuck with me now, my friend.
There we go.
Yeah. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover, no matter where you are on changing your sales game or within your career or as a leader. I really do hope that Chris and my information stories, our chat, helps you move forward with whatever change you're seeking in your game, in your sales game. So thank you for tuning in to Changing the Sales Game with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I am honored and inspired that you join us every week to hear the show and hear my guests and I tips, ideas, and strategies. Use them, guys. That's the action we need to take to create wonderful things in our lives. I love you all. Have a great week. And my next guest and I will see you next week. Chris, thanks again. Great show. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Connie. Bye-bye.